So today's daily word is faith. And since not all my things have arrived, I don't have a copy of the daily word. So I waited until this morning to read what it said. Pardon?
It is the bedrock of faith.
It is the bedrock of faith, yes. So today's daily word is I build my life on a firm bedrock of faith. Well, it changes at midnight. So I could look it up on my phone and find out what today's daily word was.
That is it.
Yeah, and I see it on the board. Yes, I know. Thank you for your help. So I think what I'd like to do is just read the whole daily word as we begin this morning. I build my life on a firm bedrock of faith. The power to shape my destiny lies within me through the power of my faith. If I catch myself believing disempowering things about myself, I stop, reevaluate my beliefs, and proceed on the new and surer path. My belief in an unlimited future begins with how I see myself. I call upon my divine faculties of imagination, strength, and zeal to see myself achieving everything I set out to do and be, endowed with the perseverance and enthusiasm to make it happen. A solid foundation of faith, knowing my innate divinity is my guiding light. It is my touchstone. I believe in myself, and I believe in my oneness with divine mind. I believe that is unwavering. The scripture for today is from Joshua. Now therefore revere the Lord and serve him in sincerity and in faithfulness. Put away the gods that your ancestors served beyond the river and in Egypt, and serve the Lord. Amen. So we won't chant this, but we could say together the affirmation, which is written on the board, and if you'll just follow me. I build my life on a firm bedrock of faith. Let's do it one more time. I build my life on a firm bedrock of faith. And one more time with enthusiasm. I build my life on a firm bedrock of faith. You know, I absolutely love what Charles Fillmore has to say about faith, and I had to go back and look at it this morning. And it was one of the more challenging things for me to grasp when I was studying. And you know, he talks about faith in terms of intellect and in terms of our spiritual knowing. And I'm going to continue to study that this week because I want to be renewed in my understanding of his teachings. But we've had such great speakers since I've been here. I've been here 8 days now. Today is Monday. I got here last Monday. And we had Brian, and we had Kristen, and we've had Jack and Johannes. It's been amazing teachings about consciousness and about the divine within us. So I'm very happy to see all of you here, both at Namaste Village and online. Johannes encouraged me to tell you a little bit about my own faith and my own journey, and I thought, well, that's perfect with this topic of faith. It's a journey of faith. It's a leap of faith. At least that was my experience. I was 56 years old, retiring in Alaska, and knew that I wanted to do a graduate study program. I was a late in life a finisher of my bachelor's degree, and I knew I wanted to go on. And so I had this idea that I was going to go to Oregon to study to be an art therapist. I was doing a lot of art then and enjoying it very much, and kind of a newfound sort of ability. And so when I left Alaska, where I was born and raised, 56 years, I sat behind the steering wheel of my car and I said, "Dear God, I've been in the driver's seat this first 56 years. I am metaphorically moving to the co-pilot seat. You be the driver and I will follow." And that's the way it's been for 20 years. The most exciting part of my life has been, well, I won't say the most exciting part because I have 2 beautiful biological children. I have 3 beautiful biological grandchildren, and I have a lot of step and extended family that we are each other's chosen family. Those were all exciting and wonderful times in my life, but it was a moment of surrender. And I think I always thought I'd surrendered before that. But I meant this from my heart. So in that vehicle, my friend Rhonda, who I'd gone to undergraduate school with, from Montana, had flown to Alaska, and we headed south. Now you have to go north to go south in Alaska and drive the Alcan. I'm going to move forward to arrival in Oregon. And I knew no one there. I'd chosen the school because it had an art therapy program. And I think truly inside, I didn't want to get too far away from all my family in Alaska. So I began my classes, and I met a group of people that were studying theology, and it was an interfaith community. And I was working part-time for the university, and I'd see them on the weekends because their classes were on the weekends, and they invited me to come to have lunch with them, and we began to have dialogues, and we began to talk about different faith traditions. And Alaska in those days, it was pretty difficult to find anything other than a traditional Christian. The others just weren't as present, especially where I was. So I was hearing things and loving things. I love the Native American tradition. I lived with the Native Americans in Bethel, Alaska for 6 years. So that spoke to my heart. But there was the Buddhist and the Hindu and the Muslim and the Sikh and the many pathways to the divine. And I was hearing about them, and I realized that the master's degree I had shown up to do was a master's of art therapy, that really what my intention was, divine internally and externally, was master's in applied theology. So I switched my program and have never regretted that. It was a long journey, a deep, wonderful journey in my becoming and in my surrendering. I found unity within 3 months of arriving in a community called Lake Oswego, which is really, I call it a suburb, I hope that's correct, of Portland. If James is listening, he'll tell me when he gets back. But I found unity in Lake Oswego because I was directed to a metaphysical bookstore, what looked like a metaphysical bookstore, and I went in and talked to this nice lady, and she said, "Well, this is actually a church." And I said, "Well, where do you meet?" Because this was a pretty small bookstore. And she opened the door, and there was a big meeting room. I arrived in May. I was attending services there by August, just before 9/11. And I was so grateful to have community because I did not know anyone there other than a few classmates and people I'd met at the university. But you know, that community that's like-minded and that you connect with. That's why we come together. Even though we may not be the same faith tradition, we may not have exactly the same beliefs, we have in common that we know there's a power greater than us. And many of us define that very differently. And here and in unity, that's okay. So that's why wherever we are on our spiritual path is perfectly, exactly where we're supposed to be. And it's unique that we're together. It was about a year after I was at Unity that the minister, Reverend Victoria Etchemeni, approached me, knew what my master's, what my graduate degree studies were, and she said, I want to speak to you about being a minister. And I don't know that I heard much else because I was just crying. Because it just so came out of the blue. So I pondered that and thought about that. Well, as it turned out, I did work with Victoria for about 4 or 5 years. And I went on to be, after I graduated, a hospice chaplain. And I served in the Columbia Gorge outside of Portland for about 8 years. There were some things that I'm not going to explain now, but I continuously was a hospice chaplain for about 8 years. And then I was called to minister my own church, and I did. And the learning experience, see, I thought as a chaplain, sometimes when I would call a minister to see their congregant who is on our service, sometimes they wouldn't be very responsive. And I have to confess I held judgment about that because I'm a hospice chaplain, right? I think that ought to be their priority. Then and I think probably those thoughts, you know, we create our life with our thoughts. I think that's probably why I became a minister, because I needed to understand. Ministers are 24/7. And I mean, I thought that I had challenging work from time to time. The 3 years that I was, my congregants were my teachers and I was theirs. And when my 3 years, I became an ordained Unity minister. And when my time was up, my contract was up, I decided to move on. There's another leap of faith, but I need to check in with somebody because I can't see the time here.
So 9:15.
Okay, I'll just tell you this part, and then we'll call it a day. We'll call it a complete, because we want to do our closing and want to check in with the people that are online. I knew that my work in Roseburg, Oregon was finished, was complete, and the congregation also knew that. They were lovely people. And still many of them stay in touch, and we stay in touch with each other. And I said, well, what's next? I really don't. I mean, I didn't have a plan. And I met one of our congregants. It was a lovely lady. She's also a medium. And she said, on Easter, she said, I'd like to gift a reading to you. Would you come to my home? So I did. And the first thing she said was, you're done here. And I said, yes, it feels finished. And I said, but I have no idea what comes next. So she proceeded with the reading, and she said, I think you need to go to Santa Fe, New Mexico. I'd never been there in my whole life. Been to Albuquerque, but not Santa Fe. And there's a couple of people who live here at Namaste are also from Santa Fe. And so it's lovely to meet people from that area because it's definitely a very unique place. Santa Fe translates to the city of holy faith. My spiritual journey deepened so much there as I observed the people who have been in Santa Fe all their lives, as I observed the many cultures and the many traditions there. Native American, Hispanic, Latino, And there are all the faith traditions there. It's very interfaith in Santa Fe. One of the things that struck me was the deep devotion of the people that I was working with. So I went to Santa Fe. I met Reverend Brendolyn Batchelor, who is the Unity minister there. We met at San Antonio at the conference, and then, as it turned out, I ended up living with her for about 5 months till I found housing. And it was because of an email that she sent to me. Now, follow this. I did not know why I was going to Santa Fe. I did not know what was waiting there for me. She sent me an email. She said, I think you're qualified for this job. It was the position of a chaplain at Christus St. Vincent Hospital, which is a regional medical center. So I'm headed for Santa Fe. I had talked with, I sent the response in. We had a telephone interview. I was still kind of in the unknowing. As I moved towards Santa Fe, and when I got there, I met again with the department, and the rest is history. I went to work as a chaplain, and what I want to tell you is that I became a much more effective chaplain because I had served as a minister. The two work so beautifully together. The job responsibilities, the things that you do are different. But we work with families as chaplains in a hospital. And being able to work with families at a time that their loved one is most vulnerable or may have died is priceless. You learn that in school. You learn it. I learned it from experience. So I wanted to share that pathway with you and tell you that my being here in Ajijic is just as miraculous, because guess what? The same minister, Brendolyn Batchelor, sent me an email from Jack, the Jack who is here and who is forming the Minister in Residence program. And she said, Kathleen, see here, she says the same words. I believe you're qualified for this. And I looked at it and said, I not only want to look at this program for a month, I think I want to live there. So I met a lot of you when I came in June, and I did say a few words last June here. So I'm interested in taking a few moments, if we open up people's mics. Can they unmute themselves? Mm-hmm. If you'll unmute yourself, I'm going to go there first and then come back here. Just if you would take a few minutes, if there's something you'd like to say about your own spiritual journey, something miraculous about where you ended up, and where you may be going now. So who would like to say something? Now, let's see. It's Vicky, and then it's Teddy. Vicky, would you like to start out? Is she here today?
Yes, Kathleen, I'm right here.
Hi.
Hi, dear. Hi,
Hi,
and Teddy's
sweetie.
right here, too.
Oh, you're in a car. Oh, great.
We're in a car. And thanks for opening this up to everyone. I'll be very short. What I've realized, and it's what you started with when you went to college, when you went to Oregon, that you were most familiar and comfortable with people that you were having this spiritual opening and awareness with. It makes us an immediate family, and it supports us in living in the unknown. And maybe I would say more every day, the ability and the willingness to really get out of the driver's seat and really live in the unknown and allow it to unfold and behold it rather than guide it. Just behold it and step into the steps we're in. And for many of us, at whatever transition moments or stable moments we might be in, it's the same. It's the same willingness to let every day be a surprise. So I appreciated your story, Kathleen. And it's such an inspiration, yours, Johannes, Jack, all of us, to share these with one another, because this is truly nourishment, because it supports the same voice, the same calling, and the same action of living this life in the moment, very present, but attuned to spirit and letting that guide us. So thank you, Kathleen. Here's Teddy.
All right, Teddy. Hello. They're in the car, by the way. You can see them, yes, on the big screen. So that fits with being in the driver's seat or being a co-pilot, right?
Right.
Thank you very much. That's the visuals are always helpful.
Well, I'm not in the driver's seat any longer. And that's just another step in this whole phase of giving up control and allowing ourselves to be taken care of by the powers that be, rather than by our own devices. I was thinking about what you're saying about being a minister and a chaplain and telling you're fit for the job of having a church. There was a group of us, it was like-minded individuals who gathered around a teacher and teaching that was very much A Course in Miracles. And we bought our own church and started our own church. So just because we'd have a place to gather on Sundays. And it wasn't a traditional service, but it was a traditional church. So it's just interesting the paths that we take and when we're being guided. And it's very important for people to join with like-minded individuals. And whether you speak or don't speak, it's the vibratory frequency of energy of being joined with people who have the same purpose. That's very important. And that sort of lifts us all up as one.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Kathleen. Thank you.
Thank you. One more from online, and then I'd like to go to here in our community at Namaste. Anyone else?
Hello, I will speak if it's okay.
Please.
My name is Leslie. So many years ago, I read in a book about Vicky Poppy, and I really wanted her to help me because I was having a very difficult time in my life. But because her name was in a book, I thought, oh no, she's famous. Why would she talk to me? Little did I know who Vicky really was. And so the next thing to happen, a friend said to me, I am a member of the Unity Church, and they are starting up a class with a gathering for Course in Miracles. And she said, I'll go with you the first one. And I said, okay, great. And we went, and this woman was talking, and there were 33 people in that group, and it was wonderful. And after a while, we came in a little tiny bit late, and then I heard this woman who was speaking, and she said her name, and I raised my hand. I never do that kind of thing, but at the time, I said, excuse me, did you say your name was Vicky Poppy? And she said, yes. And I said, are you the Vicky Poppy from James Twyman's book? No, wait, that was somebody else. Never mind. Not James. But she goes, yes, I am. And I was like, oh my goodness. And we've been friends ever since. It was wonderful. I'm going to add one more thing. In that first meeting, Vicky said, okay, so now we're going to do a closed eye process, and we're going to invite Jesus in, and just see what you get. And during that time, when I closed my eyes, I saw that a basketball game was going on, and I had this above the basketball court view, and everybody had the exact same shirt on, and everybody was running up and down the court, laughing and playing. Nobody was the person making the baskets. Everybody was passing to everybody and having a great time running up and down the court. And it was just one of the most beautiful memories I have. And I thank you, Vicky Poppy. and Teddy. You've just been wonderful. Thank you so much for allowing me to share.
Well, thank you for sharing. And I love your background. It looks like a prism, the light going through a prism.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. So, Ravi, should we put the mic if somebody wants to say something here? Yes. Would someone like to share something about their spiritual journey?
Quiet bunch? Or a quiet bunch?
We're a quiet bunch, are we? Well, just your being here in Ahihik at Namaste Village is a statement about spiritual journey, isn't it? So I want to thank you all for being so welcoming. I think that I'm finally to the place of being almost rested. It's been quite a journey. You all know moving here can have it's a big deal. Moving out of the United States into another country, there's more to deal with than just getting in your car, packing it up, getting in it, and driving to another state. Yeah, yeah. So we have Melody now, who's our nurse practitioner on site. She's lovely. So glad you're here. I'm meeting people that I didn't meet in June. And Angelica. No. Is that how it said? Angelica. Angelica's here with us. Let's see. I'm Linda and Gary and Carol and Diane and A and Robbie and Bethel are all here today. So you can probably see them. Well, I'm going to quit chattering and bring this to a close with our prayer and invite you to join in. There it is. This is exactly, no, I don't know if it's exactly, but this is how we say it, Unity Santa Fe. And one of the ministers with Unity at the village changed this. And it's okay with the original author that it got changed. He always said, use my work however. I believe this is James Dillett Freeman. Yes. So let's say together with feeling, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Another way to say that is, the light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Blessings. Good morning.
Thank you. Blessings. I love you all.
Love you.